What is the fastest way you've seen someone fuck up their life? Cheat on their partner when they have a whole family. I believe cheating is a choice you actively make. You're not just stepping out on your partner. You're fucking with your kids' stability and you're changing their trajectory forever. The pastor of the church I used to attend back in the zeros cheated on his wife of 30 years with another pastor's wife, and it not only wrecked both families, divorce, children, and grandchildren, cutting them out of their lives, but it effectively shuttered their, admittedly small, church forever, all because he couldn't keep it in his pants. I think men cheat almost more to inflate their ego than for the sex. Agree. I've seen so many people of just stupid affairs. Then you wind up losing money, time with your kids, and almost never wind up with that other person for good. For a few minutes of pleasure which leads to a world of pain. Men or women who murder their spouse in order to start a new life. I never understand why they can't just file for divorce or breakup. Do they expect everyone to just forget their spouse ever existed? God, that documentary about the Watts family murder shook me, especially about the daughters. Those little babies. What type of person can throw their little girl into a big tank oil? Possibly while still alive. That is a whole new level of evil. Hope he is rotting away in that prison. After initially blaming his wife for the murders of his daughters, he's now apparently trying to blame his affair partner. He is such a stunted, horrible human. This monster, because I cannot call this person man, describe what his little daughters were saying to him. Right before, that broke my heart into pieces, and it's one of the most disturbing crimes I've heard of. What I really couldn't bear was seeing the pain of Shannon's family. Cannot imagine. I can't. No one can who hasn't been there. Their lives are ruined. This person ruined so many lives. This woman was my age. Her babies were the sweetest little kids. It just tore me apart for some time. It's monstrous. I have to say it again and again. I truly believe such horrible tragedies when a partner killed his wife or husband. It happened more often back in the day when forensics and etc. weren't as good as nowadays, when police accepted suicide as reason, killing off a whole family. That is indeed not the same, and it goes beyond comprehending and understanding and having empathy for human beings when they do things that, to me, aren't what I understand as being human. I know a guy who said he was exploring his bisexuality, but in reality was talking to who he thought was a 13-year-old boy online. This man was in his 40s and married with children. He showed up to meet the kid for sex. Turned out it was a sting operation. He's now divorced, in prison, and a sex offender for life. Wait, was he on to catch a predator? That would be wild if he was. He wasn't, but I wish he was, so he'd be more embarrassed. He walked around for almost a year, awaiting trial, acting like anyone who spoke out against him was the crazy one. It was fucking insane to watch. He worked for the local police dep, not an officer, and it still got maybe one news article. I didn't know they actually did sting operations on child molestation. He'd apparently been flagged and investigated by the FBI, totally unbeknownst to him, for sharing child pornography online. If the sting specifically targeted him or if he just happened to fall into it. Either way, very glad he's not my neighbor anymore. Creepy fuck. There was literally an entire network TV show dedicated to it. Generally, police aren't allowed to pose as underage kids online because that could constitute entrapment. But when volunteers do it, arrange the meetings and tell the police when and where the person is going to show up, they're usually happy to oblige. Meth. Knew a sweet, kind, cute guy in college who started down the speed path. Within a matter of months, he was completely unrecognizable. Personality and appearance. Both. It was horrible to see. This is my answer too. My brother has been an addict on and off for over 20 years, and the last time I seen him before he went to jail, I didn't even know who he was anymore. I drove home and lost my mind. I kept thinking, I don't even know who he is anymore. God, I'm so sorry you've had to go through this. It is brutal to watch people you love turn into a shell of their former selves. I was with this super sweet kid when he hit a dope pipe for the first time in his life. It was like a switch went off in his brain immediately. I had never seen anything like it and instantly knew he was going to have a big problem. Took him 22 years to get clean, and he only currently has 9 months under his belt. I hope it finally sticks. I felt guilty about it for a very long time. My ex struggled with a meth addiction for years, and it was so chaotic that we couldn't make it work. He did spend a significant time clean, but would relapse about once or twice a year. I was always afraid he would die of an overdose. The crazy thing I learned is that when someone does hard drugs and does somehow manage to get clean, there is a very high risk of developing a secondary heart condition even after they stop doing drugs. My ex was 37 years and died of congestive heart failure due to his past drug use. Drunk driving. Preach it. My friend's little brother was killed by a drunk driver over the weekend, along with his two friends, 10 boys, and the Uber driver, young father of two. The drunk driver lived, and now that will be the only thing anyone associates him with, despite having a good career before. Plus, he's staring down 30 years and likely financial ruin. That's awful. Here in Texas, a lot of people get minimum or no time with a good lawyer. I hope your friend's family gets justice. Yes, my best friend died by a drunk driver in San Antonio. He had multiple Deweys and only got 5 years. Getting pregnant with the wrong person. I work with foster youth, and so many young women end up in damaging situations. And I don't mean having a kid itself. So many situations of dangerous partners or serious health concerns, on top of housing instability and academic career interruptions. It's so hard to see. Dude, I was at a large house party a few years ago. I didn't really know anybody there, so I was keeping to myself and just watching people hang out. Across the room, I saw this guy sit down next to a girl whose friends had left her on the couch so they could go dance. She wasn't looking too good and something wasn't sitting right with me. He had sat down just seconds after her friends got up, and I am across the room in a crowd full of people. I didn't know if he was another friend checking in on her. I didn't really know this crowd. I wish I checked in on her sooner. She looks really drunk and kind of rests her head on his shoulder in that way you usually see people do when they've had a few too many. He then helps half carry her, half walk her up the stairs. I'm telling myself maybe he's just being a good friend. Maybe she feels sick and he's taking her to the restroom. But I can't get that feeling out of my gut. So I make my way through the crowd and go up the stairs. They're not in the restroom. At the end of the hall, there's a bedroom with the door closed. Putting my ear up to it, I could hear her. And he was doing to her exactly what you think he was. I can't even explain the rage I felt when I opened that bedroom door. He didn't even notice. But as soon as I opened that door, she was looking at me. I will never get her eyes out of my head. She looked so scared. He finally realized someone was there when I walked by the bedside table and grabbed the lamp off of it. I don't remember what he said to me. I just remember breaking that lamp over his head. I remember screaming as I pulled him off her and onto the ground. I remember kneeling on his chest and hitting with everything I had. I should have comforted her instead. I left her alone on that bed while I gave into a rage I've never felt before. I left her alone to bed up some guy whose forehead was already bled. He didn't matter, but she did. I've apologized to her for that countless times since then. At some point, some group of people heard me screaming and pulled me off of it. Coops and ambulances were called. I stayed with the girl until she was taken to the hospital to get a kit done to be taken care of. Some of her friends were able to go with her, and I'm really thankful they did. She cried a lot. The friends she was with were also crying a lot, and I really don't blame any of them. I did too. It was a few years ago, and I still sometimes hear from her. She's doing good. She just graduated her master's program, and I'm so proud of her. She has such a beautiful life that she has worked incredibly hard for. He got a few months in jail, but got out early on good behavior. I'm still livid, but at least now he has a record and a scar on his face that I'm sure he hates when people ask about. Wow. Thank you for looking out for her. That was truly heroic, and I wish there were more people like you. Hugs. I'm proud of you. Oh, fuck me. The moment I first saw my ex's face and was like, who is that cute little meerkat man? Took less than a minute to become the most dumb version of myself ever. Yet first time I saw my ex, I thought to myself, I've never seen anything so beautiful and perfect in my entire life. I fell hard and fast, and I'm still trying to put my life back together after he left. Having an affair instead of getting a divorce. Letting their spouse handle all the money. I have a 65-year-old friend who will work the rest of her life because her estranged husband lost all of their retirement funds playing around with the stock market. More stories on the channel. RedStore.